Coach Luca here with the Vigor Life podcast. We're actually in the same space, but we're turning the tables, as one may say.
Taking over my spot,
Yeah,
man.
I came in here and I'm running this place right now.
The setup's too nice.
So James
couldn't resist.
Now I can go to James and go like, hey man, listen, give me water, go do this. But I was thinking about, man, it's been actually it was episode 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Man, so like this, we're coming up on. My goal is to get to 100
That is
before
crazy.
the end of the year. So we're about 7 away.
I have been far less efficient with my podcast.
I know, this is gonna be...
Had like a 2-year break, and now I've put out 2 episods within the past couple of weeks.
Right, let's keep this going.
Trying to keep the momentum going.
But so 90 episodes later, wow, this is pretty crazy. And I was thinking about when we set it up, I said, man, like what, we have so many topics that we could talk about. But since then, you've had a couple more world championships now. Not a big deal, you know what I mean? But also in that time frame, the dojo has continued to grow very, very successfully to a degree that is it the biggest BJJ studio in Washington as far as like the membership?
I don't know what everybody else's numbers are, but I would say it's up there.
It's up there, right?
Yeah, it's got to be in the top 2 or top 3.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, incredible place as far as the training goes, but the business as well, the culture, and everything. So my thought process was, all right, well, because this is what I love talking about, is the principles of success, because I think there's a lot of carryover, by the way, right? We've both, I would say, done sports on a high level, whether it was, for me, it was basketball and playing pro, and for you, obviously, is jiu-jitsu. And, the things that, like, what are the characteristics and the values and the skill sets that you need for both when it comes to, obviously building a successful business or career? For anybody that's listening that's like, well, I don't have a business. I don't think it matters, honestly. Like,
no, it all translates to life.
It all translates, exactly. And I think in many ways you are the business of you. You're always two things. You're always the business of you, and you're always a part of a team. I don't care,
Absolutely.
Even if you're an individual sport, you're part of a team. And so, what are the things that have, I might put you on the spot here, but I think you'll have some good answers here. It's like that have helped you, be like the best in the world at jiu-jitsu, but also, become very successful in the business of jiu-jitsu, which or should I say, the business of coaching also, right? And actually there's 3 things, like the athlete part of it, the coach part of it, and the business part of it. And like, what's that line that runs through that, and the characteristics, skill sets, and the values that you believe are necessary, to be able to achieve whatever a person wants in their life, regardless?
I think there's an underlying thread through all of those things, and I don't like to make a big distinction and have those things be separate. I think a big part of it is being authentic. And when I say authentic, I'm not just meaning to be authentic to others, but also being authentic with yourself. And to realize that you're not perfect. I think the path to perfection, the first step on that path is realizing that none of us are perfect, and we're probably never going to be perfect. If you try to portray yourself in a manner of perfection at all times, it's an unattainable goal. The best that you can do is to be authentic and carry yourself in a respectful manner. So for me, I think very much leading from the front is something that's been very important for me, and not expecting my students to do anything that I wouldn't be willing to do myself. There's a lot of people who their name is on the academy, but they're not present within the academy. So I think being present both as a coach, being active as a competitor to me is important, because how am I going to have somebody compete at a high level and be able to coach them efficiently if I don't understand what that's like? How am I going to teach you or prepare you to go compete in the World Championships when I've never competed in the World Championships? It's not to say that there aren't world-class coaches who don't compete, because there are a lot of world-class jiu-jitsu coaches who have never competed a day in their life. But I think you can bring a little something more to the table if you have that authentic experience to where you've gone in and experienced the things that you're trying to help them navigate and get through.
I certainly think that the positioning of it is there. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because I think the person can go like, well, I know he understands because I've seen him go through it.
Right.
Like, hey, and I know he went and he failed, and you
Yeah.
can talk about all the years that.
And
like,
how am I going to tell you, like, you come to me, Coach, I get so nervous before I compete. Like, how do I manage that? What do I do? And then I've never learned how to manage that myself. How am I going to efficiently teach you how to manage your nerves and teach you about mental training and all these tools that I've utilized to help myself in that scenario? It's more difficult not having those tools to impart and share and pass along to your students. So for me, going and competing, that's not really what drives me. That's not the reason I train. But I like to test myself. So through going in there and testing myself and going through all the highs and lows, I've acquired certain tools for dealing with certain things, both from a technical aspect as well as a mental game aspect, and as well as help utilizing those things to help me become a better coach.
It's almost like markers along the way, right? Like you practice, and then there's something that you got to do
Right.
to see if your practice is working.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that goes. I mean, in I would say business, you see if stuff's working every month. 'Cause you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, you
We're
look at that bank account,
Yeah, look
you'll
at the
know,
bank
right?
account, or like, you know, are we losing people? Are we gaining people? Or
I'm thinking in the regard of business, like being genuine, and honestly, I believe 150% in what we do here, and I believe in the power of this to help others and to help people be able to use the principles of jiu-jitsu, the principles of martial arts to improve other areas of their life, and I believe in the value of what we offer here. So for me, I don't feel bad when I'm coming up with what our pricing is and all these different things, because honestly, like, I could have the most expensive monthly rate in the world, and I still feel we offer more value than what that numeric figure represents, and I'm totally cool with that. Like,
I want to unwrap that though.
Yeah.
It's an important point that you're bringing up for a couple reasons. Because somebody might be listening to that and going like, yeah, but I don't feel that way.
Right.
Right. And I think that getting to that point, there's a couple of things that you know, you've spent a lot of time practicing, acquiring those skills, investing in
Yes.
yourself. That's made you feel like that. Number one. Number two, you know, Martin, we were just talking about a little bit ago, but it's like you know, one of the values that I believe in so much is enthusiasm.
Right.
You know? And the last part of enthusiasm is IASM, right? That's how it feels. And
Right.
he says what that stands for is I am sold myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And you're sold yourself.
Yeah, if you don't believe in your product, or you call this a product, it's so much more than that with martial arts.
Absolutely.
or with, you know, health and fitness too. But if you don't believe in your own product, you are not going to be genuine in your sale of that product, or in your business, within your business, feeling good about how you operate things. And you're going to feel like a salesman and feel shady, like you're trying to sell people on why they should train. Like, the proof of why you should train here is come in and try a class, and you'll know why you should train here. Mm-hmm. And for some people, maybe it's not the right vibe, the right fit, just like anything else. That's the beautiful part about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now, is there's so many different options of where to train that each individual can find the family that they fit in with. Because Jiu-Jitsu and martial arts training, especially Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with as close quarters as we are at all times with the training, very important to find a group of people that you vibe with well. And nowadays, you know, unlike when I started, where there was just one place to train at any given period of time here in Washington, now people could train, you know, you go to 5 minutes down the road, or less than 5 minutes, there's a school like a mile up the road from here, there's another school 3 miles. Like, you have all the options in the world to find that good fit.
You know what's incredible though? Like I love your because at no point in time did you go like, oh, now there's all these schools. It's like you're
No.
actually excited about the fact that
Yeah,
it's grown so much, and you make such a great point. I think I say the same thing for Viggy Round. I actually tell people, I say, hey, like when we do our trial or our results in advanced program, which is kind of risk free, is like we want you to experience it. Like we believe that you'll love it here, but some people don't.
Yeah, some people don't.
It's not the fit, and it's not like there's nothing wrong with you or us or anything. Like there just might be a better fit for
Yeah.
you. And and that's the same thing with jiu-jitsu. They might be like, man, I really like you. I really like this dojo. I just I don't feel like it's the best fit.
Yeah, or some people, like honestly, because I feel we have, like I always say, we have a real, like a family-friendly atmosphere here, and a real open atmosphere, like supportive of anybody that comes through the doors, regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation, doesn't matter, politics, whatever. Like this is the sanctuary. When you walk through the doors of the academy, this is your place to escape all of that and all the things that come along with those labels within the real world. So this is like, I look at maintaining this atmosphere to be in a manner where everybody feels comfortable coming in, everybody's treated with respect right out the gate. I don't believe in the whole respect is earned adage.
Yeah, I agree with
I honestly think you
gotta
should
give it.
treat people with respect out the gate, and
Mm-hmm.
until they give you a reason to do otherwise. Which I'm
Core
still,
value
I'm
number 9 of Vigor Ground is
still
respect.
still waiting for the hammer to drop on that with you. You're on thin ice. But.
I'm just seeing how far you live this thing. Not showing you any respect.
But what's funny about that though is what I started with my original thought as I break my own equipment here. There's actually people who don't like that friendly atmosphere.
Agreed.
Yeah, and
Yep.
maybe you don't realize it out the gate with them, but sometimes like maybe somebody just comes in and you thought they were into it, and then they disappear, and then you kind of think about your interactions with them and watching their interactions with the other students, and it's like something that makes them uncomfortable.
Agreed.
And to me, that says more about them than it says about what we do here.
Yeah.
Like that's a little inside look of things they're dealing with. And that's another reason you have to treat people with kindness and treat them well out the gate, because we're all fighting battles that nobody can see. So I don't pass any judgment on them. It's just maybe they're not in a place in their life where they're willing or ready to receive that type of kindness and respect and everything, and they need to look for more of a what they would consider a hardcore place to train. Or
That's a great
some
point.
people just like to grind too.
Yeah.
Maybe the whole camaraderie and all that isn't what they're looking for. They're looking to try to kill each other every roll and be the champion of the gym. But
And that's the thing is like you never know. To make a point, I think that's a great point, because sometimes we've had that happen where people will leave and then come back.
Yeah.
And once they go like, I went other places, and like everybody's really nice here and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
But there are people that have a belief system, and it's like, man, I remember having a strategy session with one person going like, man, I noticed that like nobody's like lifting crazy heavy 500, 600 pound deadlifts, ripping them off the floor and yelling.
Right.
That was legitimately what he said, and I'm like, well, yeah, like everybody's got their own program. Like,
Yeah.
these people don't group train. These people have their own programs. Like, nobody here is trying to powerlift 700
Yeah.
pounds. Like, they're trying to feel better, move better. Now, we got some people that are doing that. We got some super high level pro athletes but everybody's got their thing. And I could tell the conversation. I legit was like, hey,
Yeah.
I don't know if this will be the best fit for you.
And that's the thing, like, don't get it twisted. Like, we grind in here.
No, absolutely.
But you can't grind all the time. And that's something that experience has taught me in regard to training. If every training session is a grind, those are the people you see that don't continue jiu-jitsu
for decades.
For decades.
Same, it's crazy. So like, it's
Yeah.
all we and Farouja talk about this all the time, because training is the same way. And today I do have a lot of different thoughts around training, right? Because in my 20s, I mean, give me a barbell and I'll eat it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, if you're like, dude, eat this barbell, you get stronger. And and you'd crush yourself, and you're like, oh, I'm fine right now.
Yeah.
of course, because you couldn't see the future, right?
Yeah, my approach to jiu-jitsu in the beginning versus now definitely evolved. You know, when I was first coming up training, like all of the instructors, they were straight out of Brazil, and very much when it was the kill or be killed, you have to represent jiu-jitsu with your life. You have to compete. If you lose, you're a failure. You let the team down. I mean, this was the type of vibe. And back in the day, every class was a grind, and every class was like preparation for a world title type of training, to where you were competing against each other within the gym. In fact, there's a funny video of Thaddeus and I that you got to remind me to send you the link to, of us having an in-school tournament, and Thaddeus and I were against each other in the final. So I'll have to send you the link. It's
Please send me that.
It's pretty cool.
But you know what is when me and Thad were rolling, I feel like that was the atmosphere every Friday he came down to Vigor. When this is still fun. Dad's listening to this.
You just brought it out in him. That's all. You have a way of bringing that out.
He's such a nice guy, and every time we rolled, the darkness would come out.
But back in the day, you know, classes were. And I sound like an old person. Back in my day. But we're talking, you know, over 23 years ago when I started, and the classes were 2 hours long. So generally, jiu-jitsu classes nowadays are an hour to 90 minutes long, depending on the academy and the format of the class and everything. But back then, 2 hours minimum. We would do, the first hour was all conditioning, calisthenics, ab work. And one of my first coaches, his thing was we had to do 500 to 1,000 reps of abs, and different ab exercises minimum every class. So the minimum was 500, but usually we did 1,000, broken down into 50 reps of each exercise that he would have us do. And then we would do a lot of running, a lot of road work type of stuff. We were right off the interurban trail in Tequila, so sometimes the warm-up was going out and running on the trail before class, and then honestly, back then it was like very minimal drilling of technique. It was maybe like 10, 15 minutes of drilling a move, and then sparring straight to war, you know, trying to kill each other. So and this was what I came up with. But through that, I learned a lot of lessons that I would take and apply to my own academy, and learn from the mistakes, if you will, because I saw a lot of people come and go due to that type of training. I saw a lot of people get scared off right away, you know, because come in and you're going to do an hour of working out before you even start learning jiu-jitsu. You know, conditioning, people can do conditioning outside of the jiu-jitsu academy. So you would see a lot of people come in, couldn't complete the workout, disappear, and you never see them. And I remember my instructor was like, man, I don't understand. Like, we have all these people coming in, but they're not enrolling.
It's like,
I said, hey,
8 hour of conditioning.
I go, man, these guys have to go to work tomorrow, you know, like they're not professional competitors. And I tried to relay to him, like, no, this is like, save that for after they're on board, like, or they work their way up to that type of workout. If you hit them with that out the gate, you're gonna scare your average person away. So only the psychos like me and Thaddeus and people like that stuck with it, right? Back then, it kind of attracted more maybe people who were a little more hardcore, and I guess one of the nice things about that is that it really did filter out a lot of the really dedicated people, because I would say a large portion of those people who went through that still train today. And I think we all learned and took away things on some elements of how to not do things within our own academies, and then also some good principles on stuff to do. You know, mix it up a little bit, and you definitely learn how to work hard. That's
I mean, there's a lot of positives to it.
There's a ton of positives.
The thing is, you can never throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah, it was not. It was not. Let's say this: I would not be who I am as a coach or an instructor, whatever you want to call it. In jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of different terms thrown around just so people don't get confused. Like, I go by coach, but you'll hear a lot of people refer to their jiu-jitsu instructor as their professor. If they're a black belt, they say professor. That just means teacher in Brazilian Portuguese, so it's basically saying your teacher. I've always gone by coach. My students call me coach or professor. I don't mind as long as everybody's respectful. I don't really care what you call me. My ego isn't so big that I need to be put up on a pedestal and worshipped like a godlike figure. So, at least not yet. I haven't got to that point yet.
We got a while to go, but we're getting there.
But no, you definitely take away things that you can use in a positive manner to help your students, both with the good and the bad. And then from a business side of things, just seeing like little things like that, like, man, you're scaring the new people off right out the day one.
Because you've seen this, right? Like, you've seen places that are like, man, we're the real deal, right? But you're going out of business. Because you gotta ask yourself, who are you there for? You know, and are you there for to be hardcore, or are you there to teach the art of jiu-jitsu and obviously how it portrays to life and get people to be more confident and fitter and whatever else.
And I would argue that you can do all of those
Correct.
things.
No, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
But it has to, you have to look from a different perspective, though, you know?
And you have to have those experiences.
Absolutely.
Going back to what we were talking about before, in order to be able to do that.
To make, I want to bring this back because I wrote a post the other day, because I legit have now been in the gym for 25 years, and I've never taken more than 2 weeks off, even
That's
with
awesome.
some insane injuries. You know, and
I feel you on that.
Yeah, and I know you've had a lot of that too. But you are a person that I look at and go like, man, you have all of these, and I said, you know, to be great at this is you gotta have knowledge. You gotta have the knowledge of it. So you know, whether that's certifications or courses or learning or whatever else, right? That's one. Then you gotta have the experience,
right?
Wisdom, you know, doing this stuff and failing or learning or whatever it is. Then you gotta have the results. And the results, I think, I think for yourself, you gotta have some results. Like you're a product of your product. Like, let's be real. And so am I, right? But also results with your clients, results with yourself. And then the last one is longevity. Right? Been there, done that, still doing it.
Yes.
And for me, it's like that changes. So while I, you know, maybe I'm not doing some of the stuff I was doing when I was younger, I still want to be fit for whatever that is for me today. Just like, you know, you want to be great at what you are today. But also it's like learning from all the, like longevity to me is like, hey man, like, you know what? I'm not going to deadlift 2-3 days a week super heavy. That's not a smart thing. Or squat. Or hey, the sequencing of exercise is dynamic. Or just understanding of all this joint positions and like, hey, this probably isn't good if I want to be in it for the long term. But I think that those four are the things that you gotta have is like knowledge, experience, results, and longevity. For me to be like, all right, like I'm gonna listen to you.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
Like,
No,
not to say you
I
can't
totally
learn from
agree.
everybody, but
no, and you definitely can learn from everybody. I think that's important for people in an instructor's role to understand. If you think you're the end all and be all, and you can't learn from everyone, you're just going to limit your overall growth. And you see that a lot, unfortunately, to where I personally know, like, there's a lot of people, a lot of black belts that won't go to seminars and won't receive information they should be open to in a manner with which I believe they should, just to become as complete as possible. And for me, if the information is good, I want to take it in. I want to take the things the elements that I like and that work well for me and apply them to my game, and continue to evolve. I think a big part of it is ego, because once you reach a certain level within jiu-jitsu or within anything, you start to try to portray yourself, especially if you are in a position where you're teaching and you have a following, you have students. A lot of people get caught in the pitfall of feeling the need to portray themselves like they know everything. They have all the resources and they know, or our way of doing things is the only way, this is the best way. There's no best way.
No. And it's almost like, well, I don't want to be embarrassed, but embarrassed by, I don't know, like listening to somebody that's lesser and lower to me. But man, you know what's crazy?
I learned stuff from white belts.
That, man, I was just gonna bring it up because I know we talked about this
Yeah.
before, and you're like, man, I see something. Because here's the thing, how like I study a ton, right? But the thing is, there's no way I can study everything there is to study.
No.
And imagine like somebody just comes in, they just read a book or took a course. I don't know, they're 21 years old, and they're like, oh man, I just went through this thing, and I haven't, right? And I'm like, oh, tell me what's the biggest lesson you learned from that? Show me some stuff. Bam, like I might just have learned something
Exactly.
from that, because if I have an empty cup, and but that's the biggest thing, right? If you care more about being better than you do about being right or being the man, that's how you become the best, right?
Yeah, I always say the more you think you know, the less you actually know.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I know everything. Like, no, because you've limited yourself into what you're taking in.
Mm-hmm.
You know certain things within your own sphere, but you're not going outside of that in continuing to try to evolve and grow. Like, for instance, within the jiu-jitsu world, there's this big divide between people who train with the gi, with the uniform, and people who train without the uniform. And right now, no-gi jiu-jitsu without the uniform is like really popular because there's a lot of pro events that pay a lot of money, and there's a lot of really popular people on the scene right now in that category, in the no-gi division. And so that's like gaining popularity again. And it's funny because when I came up, there wasn't a term for that. There wasn't the term no-gi.
It was just jiu-jitsu.
It was jiu-jitsu or grappling. So literally when we would do those 2-hour classes and we do the crazy workout and then we do the little bit of technique and kill each other sparring, after the class finished after 2 hours, we would take our gi tops off and we would roll for another 30 to 60 minutes without the gi top, and that was no-gi. But we didn't look at it as this big different thing.
Yeah.
And kind of where that stemmed from is from when Eddie Bravo beat Royler Gracie in the ADCC, and that was like a huge shift to where Eddie went and started his own system, started his school, kind of very smartly off the success of that, of beating one of the Gracies, and because back then it was like, man, those guys are unbeatable type of thing, so it was a huge deal. So he was very smart. He went and started a school that was only no-gi.
10th Planet, right?
10th Planet, and he's done amazing.
Yeah.
And then it just became, I think, through marketing and all these different things, it was like, oh, which is better? Because that's the natural, oh, which is better? I think you need to do everything. I saw a funny meme, I don't know who the guy is, I think he's a political guy, but has that, you see the meme all the time where somebody's sitting at the table and then the sign says, da-da-da-da-da, change my mind on it, right? Somebody did one the other day where it said, if your belt level drops 2 or 3 levels when you take off or put on the uniform, your jiu-jitsu sucks. Change my mind. That's kind of my opinion. Like, if your jiu-jitsu all of a sudden doesn't work because you take off the gi, you don't know how to grapple anymore, your jiu-jitsu sucks. You need to be trying to be well-rounded. So for me, like a controversial topic for gi jiu-jitsu people was leg locks. You can call it the dark arts, right? All these leg locks, because they're not allowed in a lot of the gi jiu-jitsu tournaments. Yeah. I love that stuff, man. I want to learn it all inside and out, and anything that's good, anything that works, and anything that can make me well-rounded and better in the long run is going to make my students better in the long run as a result of that, because I have a deeper understanding of all things grappling related. And if they run into a certain situation, like, it's funny, the last Fight to Win event here, which is like a pro grappling event where you're on a stage and you have walkout music.
You were in it, right?
I did the one before that one. I did the one right after I competed at Master Worlds last year. I've done it a couple of times, but this last one I didn't. I actually commentated the last 2 of them that were here. and I had a great time doing that. But they do an awesome production. But it's funny because we had 3 or 4 people compete in no-gi matches. You know, to put it out there, like, we have 1 no-gi class a week. Everything here is gi.
Yeah.
So there's a very small group of people that work in no-gi, like do no-gi regularly here, and not necessarily were any of those people. Like, they just took the gi off and trained no-gi to get ready for those matches. But they all won their matches, and they all won by leg lock. So
Wow.
then we got painted as because I'm listening to like commentaries like, oh, Foster's is a no-gi leg lock school. And it's like, no, we're a gi jiu-jitsu school. We just train in everything so we can be well-rounded. And we're open to receiving any good information and using it to grow. And then I can, my way of looking at it is like, I'm not going to, because there's a lot of people who will look at a certain technique and go, no, I'm not gonna teach that, or I'm never gonna use that, so I'm not gonna learn it. My whole thing is, what if I have a student that wants to learn that? How am I gonna show them if I don't learn it? Or also, what if they're in a competition, somebody does that to them and they don't have an understanding of it and they get caught? That's my fault for not passing on how to do that. Like, at least have to have a basic understanding in order for them to be able to defend it at the least. But if I'm like, oh no, that position's crap, we're not going to work on that here, I'm just hurting them. I'm hurting nobody but myself and them in that regard.
It's interesting. Man, actually, let me make this point first though. I think we're in we're still in that world where like we run businesses, but you are a master of the craft. Like, you want to master the craft all the time. Like, I feel like I know more than I've ever known, but I still feel very dumb. It's just a good feeling. I
Totally.
gotta learn a lot. But because there's 2 sides of this. There's like the, hey, I bought a franchise, I hired the people and they're doing their thing, but like you're still, and this is the world I love to live in, is because we're business owners, but man, I love the craft though. Like, and the things
Absolutely.
that you're saying, it makes sense because you're still in the trenches understanding the person, the student, and the client. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like if you ever lose that, even if I thought for a while, like, sometimes mentors would be like, oh, you gotta get out of business and blah 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 blah. And then I did that somewhat, and I was like, man, but I like, all I want to do is like run stuff and coach and do these different things, and I feel like once you lose the pulse of the industry and the people and your culture and your environment, man, I think that's the beginning of the end.
Definitely. And I think just being closed off to actively participating in and continuing to evolve, it just hurts people in the long run. And you could apply that to anything in life. And just to me, I always want to have something that I study that I'm not great at. Like, I'm good at jiu-jitsu, right? I've done decent. I have a nice academy.
Yeah, you've done all right.
But I'm still like down here, like very low for where I see myself going. But if you had to list things in my life that I'm at a high level at, jiu-jitsu is obviously the highest level thing that I participate in. But I think it's very humbling and important for people to also do things that they're not good at and be trying to acquire new skill sets. Like me, I draw. So for me, that's the art board's right behind us with some sketches on there and everything for the people listening. But like, that's something I'm not great at. Like, I'm good, but I'm not great at it, and I'm not to the level I am with my jiu-jitsu. I'm maybe a purple belt in drawing, but a black belt in jiu-jitsu. The other thing is, I love to, like, I don't know if you saw my recent Instagram post, but I've been teaching myself how to do 3D logo animation, right? So I'm gonna holla at you. I've been sitting down with this software I downloaded, this free software, and just going on studying tutorials. Like, in my downtime, like kind of like working, but even though I'm not working. But for me, I love the challenge of that, and I love not being good at something right away and having that struggle and getting frustrated and going, oh man, like last night I stayed up way too late working on. I made snow fall in front of the logo because it's the winter time, and I was like bumping my head against the wall, like trying to figure that out. And I finally, about 1 in the morning or midnight, I figured it out and got it to work. But I think that's important, and again, that goes back to just always trying to learn and always being open to receiving new information, and not being satisfied with where you're at in any area of your life.
Yeah, you bring up this thing that, like, one of my favorite books this year that I read was called Range from Epstein's, the guy that wrote The Sports Gene, and it's like all this confirmation of why, like, people, basically the subheadline is why generalists thrive in a specialized world.
Right.
And how people that had a lot of experience in a lot of different things are much better problem solvers. That
Right.
people that have just niched in one thing their whole life are shitty and horrible when somebody asks them for their advice in another area, because they're so sure about their knowledge, like, oh, I'm so sure, and they're horribly wrong most of the time. But like, when you've done a lot of stuff, you've really become better at lateral thinking. You have a pool of experiences and wisdom to take from that helps you construct like a better idea and plan and strategy. And so, when you go, like, I know you love art, because what is the 3D design is still art.
Yeah.
You love drawing art. Like, I love drawing. Like, I love art. I absolutely love art. But I look back and I look at all the stuff that I've done, and it's been a lot of stuff. Like, and I know it helps me in decision making and like going laterally and making and kind of figuring shit out.
It's more tools for the tool chest.
Exactly.
It's just another way of challenging your brain and looking at something from a different perspective, which is invaluable in business and life, everything else. So for me, like, I find, like, honestly, like, I think a lot of times I'll speak for myself, because I know you're like a machine and you go, but I think I kind of know why, because I've been trying to distill it and figure out, and it's like, well, I'm not wired that way. I can't do what Luca does because he's so motivated and he doesn't sleep and he works and works and works. But I noticed something with me, because I've been pushing myself with this learning this 3D software and all of that, and I noticed, like, because you get stuck in this rut, or at least me, and I know there's probably some people out there who feel this way, like, especially business owners, after you worked all day, because when you're a business owner, like, you're still working when you leave the shop.
Yeah.
When I leave the academy, like,
thinking about it,
man, you can ask my wife. I'm constantly getting texts, phone calls, answering emails from people about training, interacting with my students on social media, helping them, talking to people, being a life coach, helping people navigate problems. Like, it's 24/7, right? But it gets easy to get in that, when I get home, I need to just relax. I need to just do nothing and just sit down. Like, honestly, I think that was leading me to, like, feel a little bit depressed, because I've noticed since I've been pushing myself to, no, when I get home tonight, I'm going to spend an hour or two working on that logo and learning this software. Like, I'm happier afterwards. Like, I feel more fulfilled.
It's accomplished, right?
Yeah, I feel more fulfillment. Like, I didn't just sit there on my butt and waste 2 hours watching TV. I actually learned something new and got something done, and as a result of that, I feel more relaxed than if I had just gone home and chilled and done nothing.
Because I noticed that I need to, like, because you gotta have the break and relaxation, and I think everybody does it differently, but I know that I need to plan it, right? Meaning, like, I gotta go to Banya.
Right.
It's planned. I'm gonna go for a walk in nature. It's planned. I'm gonna go and draw. Like, drawing is the same thing for me. It's like, it's all meditative. Like, I could go 3 hours.
Yeah.
And be like, oh shit, where did the time go? But
exactly.
I thought about nothing else, right? You're probably working on that. You're not thinking about anything else. You're just kind of engaged.
Exactly.
Into it.
So I think I'm actually relaxing without relaxing.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? I read this
Different type of relaxing.
I always I got too many book references in my head because
I love it though, because I need to. I've got 7 Audible credits right now, so I need some new book references.
I got you. This is it's called Give and Take. It's I think it's an Adam Grant book, but the example I wanted to bring up was like this one teacher. This is a real world example where a teacher that wanted to make a difference. So she went to, I think it was like Chicago, one of the worst schools as far as like, it was just a tough school, like with the kids, the crime and everything else, and wanted to make a difference. It was really challenging for, she was like, oh, I'm gonna make a change, and at the beginning I was like, holy shit, this is a clusterfuck.
Right.
And she got zapped, meaning like exhausted, kind of like, oh, the career's beating me down, because she couldn't change the rules, right? She couldn't just change how everything, bureaucracy and how everything
she had to work within the system, how it existed when she kind of came in.
And she couldn't make a change. And then when she went to like the therapist, it was like, I'm exhausted, right? Now, so the thought process might be like, well, rest.
Yeah, get away, take a break, yeah.
What she actually did is she took on and started her own little thing on the weekends, coaching kids that want to pass these tests and grades and they couldn't afford it.
Right.
But they were like, I'll do the work. So she actually added on more work on what she was doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And within like a month, like she was like, I feel the best I've ever felt. I don't feel exhausted, because she was doing meaningful, fulfilling work.
Yeah.
On top of this work that was probably stressing her out. So I think that sometimes I'm a big proponent of getting your rest and recovery from training, from working,
active rest.
But yeah, exactly. But I think sometimes we can mistake those things. Does that just mean that? I mean, sometimes it is not doing anything. For people like me,
you
for
can't.
people like, let's say me and you, like sometimes not doing anything is actually a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But that
can't be all the time.
No, it can't. And like
I was kind of getting into this rut where it was like all the time.
Yeah. Where it's like, I do my thing and then I don't do anything, and it's like, I love, like, for me, like, I love doing stuff that's different.
Yeah. And
it takes my head out of it, right? Like, that's the big thing, is like not thinking, because same thing, if you're a person that's really into what we do, I'm answering questions. I mean, from the gym, the business coaching programs, that like, I mean, and
but we're completely involved.
Yes.
Within our business.
Correct. Like it's not like this hands off.
No.
Even if.
And that's where a lot of people fail.
I agree. Like I absolutely agree.
They the dream is to get it to where it can run itself, but you have to realize that you need to be present within your business.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get to a certain level and then think they can, kind of back out of the business and not be involved to the extent that they were to get it to that point, and then it backfires on them.
Absolutely. And the question is like, why did you build it? Like, some people build a business to sell it. You know, I mean, that, like, I think that kind of.
I think our industries that we're in though, like, it's hugely important to be fully involved.
And I think there's a misconception because of the growth and what you see on, like, social media. It's like, this company built itself up and sold it. But in small business, like, you don't, did you get into this business to go like, I didn't go and get into it to be like, I'm going to build Vigor ground up and I'm going to sell it for like 150 million. No. Like, no, like, I got into it.
And I didn't get into it to make money.
Yeah, that wasn't your main driving force.
It,
absolutely.
No.
And it's the same. I mean, honestly, let's be real. Like, there's a lot of different industries you get into. If you looked at this statistically, you wouldn't go like, that one's gonna make us like a ton, right? Like, it's driven by passion and purpose and more. Now, I think you can. I mean, I think we've proven that you can do well in this industry, very well. And I think it's gonna keep getting better, because I think that they're young industries, and we still haven't got what we deserve, because I do think that they're so positive and influential in people's lives. But at the same time, I've had examples of people that actually I used to coach, and they'd get to a place where like, man, this is doing good, and then they'd kind of like for 2 years not really be involved.
Yeah,
right? And
just
then
coast a little bit, do the bare minimum.
Exactly, right? Like, or give somebody else, like, just you do the stuff, and I'll kind of be here doing some other stuff. And then 2 years later, shit starts falling apart fast, right? And like, I don't know what happened. I'm like, you don't know what happened.
You're not involved.
You don't have the pulse on it. Like
Yeah.
you're never there, or you're not interested, or that doesn't mean that you can't change the way that you operate. But like, man, like you can't just remove yourself. It's like the business, especially small business, even more so. It's like an organism, man. It's ever evolving.
Well, and
changing.
I think for you and I think that where maybe I differ from you in that I'm a little more laid back and don't have as high energy in certain aspects. Like what we do have in common is that we like to have our finger on the pulse of what's going on, and we like to have that certain level of control within our businesses and be aware of what's going on and be involved. And I think some people just either don't have that out the gate, or they start to get a little complacent and kind of not maintain the leadership role that they need to be maintaining.
Yeah.
It very much, everything comes down from the top, so
yeah.
I get a lot of messages, and it makes me sad because I'll get messages from people from all over the world that train jiu-jitsu, and they'll be reaching out to me because they're having a certain problem at the place that they train at and want to know, want my advice. And it's like, well, what's the leadership doing? Have they addressed this? Have you told them? Yeah, I told them and they didn't do anything. I'm like, well, if that's the case, it's not going to improve, so you're going to have to decide if you're okay with it or if you need to move on. Like, that's the thing, because if leadership just wants to bury their head in the sand anytime there's a problem, it's not going to get resolved. It's just going to fester and get worse. So
and the thing is, the business or any organization will only go as high as the leadership will take.
Exactly.
Which means that the leadership has to constantly grow and evolve. And
bro, I've had more uncomfortable conversations with people than I can count.
Yeah.
But they were necessary conversations to have, and that uncomfortability in the short term saves so much uncomfortableness in the long term.
Oh yeah.
But it's like when a problem arises, it has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed by the leader. Mm-hmm. The leader has to do it. It can't be like have one of your assistants go deal with it, because it's not going to resonate in the same manner, and it probably won't get resolved because it's not coming from you. Whereas if you have the benefit of the doubt of addressing the problem from a leadership standpoint and doing your best to correct and come up with a solution, most of the time you can take the control back and take the reins and correct the ship and get things running efficiently again, whether that be from a business standpoint, whether that be you have a student or a client who's unhappy about something and you want to do your best to help see them through it. Like, you have to be involved. You can't just, like, trust me, it'd be much easier for me, and it would save me, I would get much more sleep, and my stress level would be way lower if I didn't do that. So I get why people don't do it, because it's stressful.
Well, but but that's the thing though, like, because right now it's easier to not deal with it.
Right.
But slowly it's gonna turn into a big.
You go, man, why is my business falling apart? Like, years later, maybe it's even years later. Yeah. And then you look back and you're like, oh man, this didn't get addressed, this didn't get fixed. Like,
it's the compound effect of the little hard conversations you didn't have.
It is.
That will make it fall apart. Same thing. What's like I want to say that goes for relationships.
It's
that
everything.
Goes for everything, right? Like,
and it's communication.
Absolutely.
Because that's such a lost art. Communicating and having face-to-face conversations. Like, I know I have this rule. I won't do serious conversations over text or messaging, Facebook message, whatever. Like, if there's a really serious conversation that needs to be had, something that needs to be addressed, it's going to be us sitting down face-to-face in my office, talking it out, figuring out a solution. But it's a lost art, man, because everybody wants to text.
You can't.
There's no emotion conveyed into, like, you can misconstrue things. There's no context with text. Talking to somebody on the phone, even if you can hear somebody's voice, you can't see the expression on their face. You can't see the reaction you're getting when you say a certain thing and how they respond to it. Like, you got to be face to face for the serious stuff.
I mean, there's a level to it, right? You go from kind of text, email,
Yeah,
call to like face to face. But I do think, well, here's the thing. There's something that happens, like if we have a problem, right? I did something, you did something, and we respect each other enough to go like, hey, listen, man, like you did something that wasn't cool. I want to talk to you about it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, oh shit, okay. But we sit down and I hear the hard stuff, you say the hard stuff,
Yeah.
and we wrestle with it, and at the end we kind of get to an agreement. Now we're closer, now we're better. I respect you more, you respect me more, you know, and especially when you do the stuff that you talked about.
Right.
That's how businesses and relationships get built. Like,
and that's getting personally involved. Like the other route is very impersonal, and really conveys how much or how little you care about the situation or about the person that you're dealing with. So it tells me a lot if you don't want to have that interaction. It's like, okay, that's about how much this person cares about their student or this or that. Like, if you actually care, you're gonna deal with being uncomfortable and having those conversations.
Yep. And actually, you know, because we're talking about books, you know, I'm gonna stop
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Kim Scott, Radical Candor. The Radical Candor actually is the word means care deeply, challenge directly.
Right.
It's radical candor, right? So if I care about you, man, I'm gonna challenge you to some, you know, you're saying some shit. I'm like, come on, James.
See, you gotta do some show notes for this episode.
Oh, I'm gonna do some show
and
notes.
include all
the
book referrals, the book
will be
references.
Hell yeah.
I love it, because you know I'm gonna be texting you later. What was that book you talked about?
It's in the show notes. Click
It's in the show notes.
You know what? Because it's kind of getting towards the end of the year, though. What are some, like, man, what were like 3 big lessons that, like, this year you were like, it was like an aha for you in life and business and you know, anywhere, something that just pops to your mind that you're like, man, like, what have you learned 2019 that was solidified for you? You know, if you had to write it on, put it on your T-shirt, you know.
I've learned a lot of things, but the one that stands out right now, because it's pretty fresh, is, you know, bringing my wife on board in the business. And that was a goal that, well, we talked about it, and you and I had talked about it years ago, and it was something that her and I kind of had as a long-term goal. But, you know, she got to a point in her career, and I got to a point with the success here of the business, to where we finally pulled the trigger. And what I would say is, like, the most scariest and the most challenging things in that have the biggest unknowns tied to them usually are a lot of the most beneficial decisions you're ever going to make in your life. Because honestly, like, just since she started here in March, the business has grown 20%. Everything's, you know, things were already great, but now they're even better, and things are efficient. And so, you know, I would say, like, not being too hesitant about taking those big leaps if you have everything lined up, and
if you know it in your gut, kind of.
And do your homework.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not like we just jumped into it. Like, and she had great benefits through the state, like losing those, and like having to provide benefits through the business, and that took research and all of that. And there was a lot of, you know, financial, making sure, like, okay, is this reasonable? Can we do this? Like, you got to do the homework. But, you know, a lot of people do the homework and figure out that something is a viable option, but that big change and the fear of the unknown takes them back from kind of jumping at that opportunity and making the choice to take a little bit of a risk. But I can tell you, like, the reward is there when you take that risk. If you've done your homework, like, honestly, it's the best decision made regarding the business in many, many years. The other one, you know, and this doesn't apply to this year, but just when you helped me with the business back many, many years ago when we first met, like, the business was struggling, and you know, you came in and you're like, yeah, what are you charging? you got to raise that by like $50. Like, what? $50? Raise? Nobody's going to sign up. And it was like the opposite. I raised my rates and like more people signed up, you know. It's funny how these little things, like, it's so scary, but you have to take those risks. Like, they pay off. And here's the thing, if you take the risk, like, let's say I brought my wife on board and, man, we just got into each other's face and we didn't work well together and we're constantly arguing and the business was suffering and all that. Like, that's the worst that can happen.
Yeah.
And then, you know what? Then she would have put her resume out and find a different job, and I would have continued running the academy, and you course correct and you move forward, and it's like, man, at least you tried,
that's
right?
That's the thing that I wanted to bring up when you said it was, that's how I've made a lot of my decisions, is actually thinking about the worst case scenario.
Yeah, what's the worst that can happen? Is like, if the worst happens
and you can deal with it,
and we can deal with it and still move forward, then why not try?
Exactly.
And that's what I told her before, you know, when we were talking, like, you know, the worst case scenario is it doesn't work. We try it for 6 months or a year, and then, you know, we figure something out. Like, it's not, like, people are too crippled by that fear of the unknown.
It's called catastrophizing, right?
Yeah, and you feel like, oh man, if it doesn't work, I don't have any other option.
Yeah, everything is
like,
no,
there's options. There's options. It's just, if you close yourself off to those possibilities to the point where you can't see those options there, then yeah, you're gonna feel like, oh man, if this doesn't work, that's it. But usually there's alternatives and there's ways to course correct and adjust. Like, any high level multi-millionaire, billionaire will tell you that they've, like, tried a lot of things and made a lot of mistakes and failed a bunch. Like,
way more than they want.
Way more than they want, and like, I can translate that over directly to competing. Like, I'll be honest, I've lost way more competitions than I've won. Mm-hmm. But the few that I've won were very memorable, and they were at the elite level, right? But there was a ton of failures leading up to that, but you have to adjust every time, and you can't let it keep you from trying again. And that's where I think people set themselves up to limit their growth, is like, go in and try, oh, it didn't work out, and then they don't make the adjustments, and they don't take that risk again. And, you know, you can always take a risk and then course correct. You know, as long as it's not a life or death thing, you know, you take that risk and you die, then yeah, you can't try it.
Afterlife,
can't
try again.
Maybe, hopefully, but you know, most things in life you have a little bit more control and influence over than you initially think. You know, a lot of times people get irrational or don't think about it logically, to where, you know, the worst case scenario is like the absolute devastating thing that they can never come back from. I think Randy Couture put it best in regard to fighting. He would say, you know, somebody asked him, like, you know, how do you deal with the nerves or the pressure of going in and fighting in the octagon? He said, well, before each fight I ask myself, if I go in there and lose, will it be the worst thing that's ever happened to me in my life? He's like, the answer is always no.
Always no.
So then it's like, okay, well, worst that can happen is I can lose, and that's not the worst thing that's ever happened to me in my life. So I'm going to take that risk, and I'm going to, you know, either grow from it or learn, either way, and make those adjustments and move forward.
I think big decisions have to have that. I actually want to share, like, how I when I decided to buy the building, which
and that's something that you and I, like, we talked about that, like, probably 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago.
And because I was like, man, like, this
and you were doing the planning, you were doing the research. Just like, it's not like you were just taking this leap.
Oh,
like,
no.
There was a lot of build up and a lot of planning.
I mean, I did the due diligence on it, but what I realized was, like, okay, well, I'm in a really good place financially, but now I'm going to bet all of it on this vision, you know, And there was this whole like, well, I
And
can
it's
play.
scary, right?
It's very scary. I mean,
yeah,
you know, 'cause-
you probably lost some sleep over that.
oh boy, it was. I mean, I was legit having nights where I was just sitting there and going like, you know, is this the thing I should be doing or not? And I
but usually the things that are the most worth doing are the ones that scare you the most.
You know, but I did go okay, here's the worst case scenario. And you know, this can, especially with commercial buildings and build outs and stuff, it can happen. I was like, you know, we start building it, something goes wrong, we can't get in, I'm just losing so much money, we have to sell, like the worst case scenario kind of, like we have to sell the building, I lose it, and I'm basically back at fucking, like, not zero, but like I lost the money, I lost the building, I have to rebuild the business almost from scratch. And that was, I mean, that thought is pretty shitty and devastating, right?
For sure.
But I was like, okay, but if, I mean, that's the worst thing that could happen, right? I have the motivation, the knowledge, and the experience to rebuild it faster than I ever have before.
Exactly.
Right? And as soon as I said, okay, it would suck, but I'm willing to do that, all of it just went away. Meaning all of it, I was like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And that was it. You know what I mean? Like, and I think if you do that in your head, and you know, because you could catastrophize something, right? Like if you get in an MMA fight, you know, losing, choke out, get knocked out. I mean, what's the worst? Well, you could die, but you know, but the thing is, I mean, what are really the chances of that? Like, you know, statistically, it's very, 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 very. But you could
you have more of a chance of dying going out and driving your car.
Correct, right? Like, and you don't play that in your head.
You don't blink, you know. You don't even blink at that. Oh, am I
going to
drive?
Should I go to work today or not? Like you don't, or like step off the pavement and you know, like it's just if you thought that way, right? It's almost like I believe it is like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Yeah.
Like you bring
when you
focus,
dwell in the negative.
Yeah, it brings it to you.
Yeah.
Like you get what you focus on, right? Like, so I think that, but it's important to understand that. I was telling a friend, if they're listening to this, they probably might be like, man, fuck this. But I was like, man, like if you're trying to get somewhere, and it's like you're in a tree and you're holding on to one branch and on the other one, and you want to go from one branch to another, right? And imagine one branch is where you are right now, the other branch is where you want to go in life, right? And it's scary. You gotta let go of one fucking branch to get there.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And people are like holding on to both. I can't seem to get ahead. I'm like, fucking let go of the branch.
Yeah.
You know, like you gotta let go. And so you gotta let go of who you are today, of where you are today, of the security of today. You gotta let it go. Like there's no guarantee ever in life that stuff's gonna work out. But, you know, eventually if you keep putting in the work and learning and failing and it will, you know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, there's so many stories of that I've personally heard, like multi-millionaires, like these guys running these big companies that literally, like, the company got run into the ground, they were bankrupt, homeless, like, and built it back up and became millionaires again.
I mean, I have an example of
there's
a
several
friend of mine that, you know, not honestly 4 or 5 years ago, and people thought that they were doing great, and he told a story, but it was like $1 million in debt, you know,
right.
to sell off a bunch of stuff and just in a shitty place. And today, you know, soon, like, I mean, the company's probably worth at least 100, if not a couple $100 million, you know, and like is gonna sell or whatnot, right? Like,
right.
And that was like 5 years ago, and it was, you know, kind of this bottom from some success. You know, there was some success, and then it's like boosh, you know. And I mean, shit, like our gym in Slovenia, I don't think I even said this out loud, maybe a couple times, but like when we went into, not the building we're in right now, but the previous building that we went into, which was a big 11,000 square foot space. It was awesome. And they, you know, we were like, hey, it's going to be $100,000 in tenant improvements, right? And we're not going to say, you know, what there was just a lot of shit that happened,
right.
But it ended up being over $200,000, you know, and I had to loan some money to them, like very fast, and then that wasn't the end of it, because it was like, so it was more than double in TIs, and that could have fucked us up. But then the guy that owns the whole building, you know, got in trouble. It was like, you know, mafia, political shit.
Yeah.
It was all types, and we actually had to go, you know, because it was they could have sold it any day. The bank took it back over, which is why we moved to the space we're in right now, which is a way better scenario. But I mean, there was so much stuff going on that in that time frame, it was very easy to be like, hey, had this gym now for 11, 12 years in Slovenia, and like you know, it was the most known gym in the country for what we do, and all of a sudden it's like poof, you're gone, and we had to bust our ass and hustle, and like I was out a bunch of money, still kind of am, but I believed in it enough to go like, hell, you know, here you go, like let's fix this.
Yeah.
But that's life. I can tell you scenarios left and right, you know, so many in the last 14 years of owning a gym, of the roller coaster that we've been on, you know, like when we started a supplement company in Slovenia, and it was, you know, great, but we were doing them like mixing too much of the finances.
Yeah.
Like, and then it's like, hey, we're losing a bunch of money. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Stop doing that. You know, I mean, it's we could, if we put a piece of paper down and just listed it all. Like, I mean, even the last 2-3 years, I can tell you so many, you know, quote unquote failures, right? Like that have just been lessons and course corrections, and like, we gotta change this. I gotta learn from this. This hurts. This sucks. But you know, it's
and I think like changing the lens of how you view those things is important. Like, instead of looking at them as failures, looking at them as opportunities to learn.
Yes.
And to improve and move forward. Just like if I, you know, get caught in a submission or something, I don't look at that as a failure. I'm going to figure out how I got caught in it, and I'm going to try to not make that mistake again.
And the question is, what's the opportunity here?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I ask myself, because you got to sometimes rumble with it, you know, like, Jimmy, there is no fucking opportunity. Yes, like, what's the opportunity here, right? And it's like, man, like, fix our customer experience. Like, it sucked in this realm, so we got to flip it around and make it way better. That's the opportunity. Is like, we can make something really good out of something that was really bad. And you know,
I think people don't realize how much in control or how much power they have over how things are influenced through their own choices. And it can be a choice of how you handle a situation like that, or how you move forward. You know, looking at what you have control over, what you have influence over, and taking those things and utilizing them to make improvements and make adjustments and continue going forward. Because I like to tell my students, when they hit plateaus, I say the only way through is forward. Like, you hit a plateau, you can quit, or you can continue moving forward. Like, of course, there's going to be little things like, oh, maybe this is causing you to feel like you're having a plateau, or because most of the time when people feel that they've hit a plateau, like, it's an internal thing. Like, from the outside, we can see them improving, but they can't see the improvement on their own, because maybe they're looking at more of their scale of seeing if they've improved is on too grand of a scale, and they're not looking at the little things.
Because they're
like,
comparing, right?
Yeah, like, hey, would the you right now be able to tap out the you that started 3 years ago? Well, yeah. Okay, well, you've improved. Or does the you now know more than the you of 3 months ago? Well, yeah, I've learned a bunch of different things, and okay, well, you're improving. Like, you have to scale and look at, you know, what do you consider improvement, and are you only looking at the big leaps as improvement, or are you really pulling back and seeing the little things that, again, we talk about the compound effect, which I'll drop that as a book recommendation, because the compound effect is amazing. It's just how all these little things add up to be great improvements and great gains. I think it's beneficial to pull back and really force yourself to see things in that manner.
And why even think about, here's the other thing too, like, why do we all believe that plateaus are even bad? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the part of the issue. Like, with weight loss, I tell people, I'm like, you've hit a plateau, congratulations. And people are like, what?
Yeah.
Why? I'm like, man, because your body's fighting the change. Like, it means you're doing the right stuff.
Growth through discomfort.
Absolutely. You're doing the right stuff.
Yeah.
And the plateau is the part where, like, now you got to change some more stuff and become a better person and human being and better at this, that, and lifestyle things. And then you'll break it. And the thing is, it's going to teach you patience and consistency. And, like, plateaus are not, like, if you label it and go, like, a plateau is bad, then everything around that is going to be like, oh, man, like, I hit a plateau. Ugh. You know, like,
the plateau is normal.
It's normal.
If you weren't having that, something's wrong. You're not pushing yourself enough.
Correct. Like,
you know, you're not trying to improve. You're not you're not doing the right things if you're not plateauing.
And
Plateau is a natural on the path to any
of life, of anything.
yeah,
It's like you think about
great thing.
change, like evolution. It's like, man, it takes a lot of stuff to get through one place to the next one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, look at any. I mean, if you look at a human being, obviously we know that. But if you look at a company, please show me a company that's been around for 20 years, and they were just going up nonstop.
Yeah,
It doesn't
constantly,
happen.
yeah.
It's like plateau and drop and
Yeah.
up, and it's just like this wiggly, crazy line, right? And so I think that the way we frame things in our lives, to come back to the plateau, there's a drill, I call it like spheres of control. Is people start believing that they don't have control, right? And you don't over some things. Like, if I walk out right now and it's snowing, I can't fucking do anything about that, right? But I still do.
You can adjust how you react to it. Or, so you can be proactive or reactive. Like, there's a lot of different ways to approach it.
And to actually put it on paper, because I don't remember who taught me this, but like, I would just do can't control on a piece of paper, and I write it out, and then you actually, the drill is there so that you can see all the stuff you can control, and then I'd write what I can do next to it. Like, what's the next step that I can do? Because can't control, I'm like, well, okay, no matter what I do or think about, that won't change. I can't do anything about this. But look at all the stuff that I can control and do things about. It gives me power, right? It gives me power to go like, I can do this, right?
It's actually an exercise that I've given my students before, and it was passed to me from, actually, funnily enough, my my doctor, like my general physician, like, and he's a super good guy, and actually like a really good person. Like, I remember when my insurance, I was on my parents' insurance, and my insurance was no longer able to be covered by them under their insurance, and I needed to go to the doctor. I think I had some jiu-jitsu related injury or something, and he's like, oh, just come in. Like, he told the gals at the front desk, he's like, no charge, like, don't charge him. They were all confused, like, what's going on? Like, took care of me, and made sure I was taken care of. But one of the things he imparted to me at one time, I was telling him I was dealing with a little anxiety or something. This is many years ago. And he said, take 3 different colored pins. Take a blue, a red, and a black pin. And he said, with the red pen, write down all the things you have absolutely no control or influence over. With the blue pen, write things that you have
like some
control over. And with the black pen, write all the things you have
like
total control over. And he goes, you'll be surprised when you look at that paper, like, the biggest group is going to be the ones you have 0 control or influence over, and you're going to have a little block where you have, some influence, and you're going to have this one where you have complete control over how that goes. That was a very beneficial thing to see it, like you're saying, see it written down. It's like, oh man, I'm dwelling on these ones that I can't do anything about. I'm wasting all my mental resources on these things that I have 0 control or influence of how this plays out. Well, I need to be focused on these ones over here, or at least have a little influence or have a complete control over. And a lot of times, like, you have complete control or at least some influence over a lot more things than you realize. Like how you and I were talking about the somebody saying, oh, I know, like when you tell them something, it's like, well, no, you don't, because if you knew, you wouldn't be doing it that way. Like,
exactly.
You don't know, like, or and you're continuing to do it the wrong way. Like, that's a choice. Like,
I feel like knowing,
you have the control to change that.
Absolutely. And I feel like knowing is doing.
Yeah.
Until you don't, until you're not doing it, you're not knowing. Actually, see, I gotta pull the phone out just because.
Oh man.
There's another book.
You probably got 20 texts on there.
Man, I'm not even looking at that. I'll get in trouble.
Mine's
all right,
blowing up
too. I'm looking at the author of this, because like there's 2 really good books that from this author. Hold on, let me find this real quick. Oh, Pema Chodron. So Welcoming the Unwelcome is her new book, but the one that's famous, and it is a fantastic read, is When Things Fall Apart. And and she's a Buddhist monk, and but like the framing of what she talks about, because in life, like every day and every month and every, like, we're dealing with stuff, struggles and things falling apart
constantly.
you know?
Yeah,
Constantly.
That's what I tell my students. Like, you look at somebody with a black belt on and assume that they're perfect or don't have problems. It's the furthest thing from the truth. We're all human beings. Like,
Here's the thing: more responsibility, more problems.
Exactly.
Like, that's the thing that I'll even be honest about this, is like, and I've gotten much better capacity over the years and decades of handling it, right?
Well,
but
you learn how to manage.
You learn how to manage it better, manage yourself better, and manage your emotions better. But you think about it, when you don't have a lot of responsibility, there's not that much stress, But then when you're responsible, like, we're a team of 9-10 people now, and then I have online assistants, and I'm doing charity work, and I have family I help out with, and I mean, there's just and it's stack, and I just signed a book deal, and I'm doing another self-published book, and it's just stacking all these responsibilities up, and the thing is, more responsibilities, more problems, and what you do is you just build the capacity to be able to handle, like, more, right? Because it's like the Luca 5 years ago would be crushed under the responsibilities right now.
And that says a lot too. I mean,
it does, man, because it's like, it's emotional and mental and spiritual weightlifting.
Yeah.
It's not just physically. We understand, like, you lift more weight, you do more volume, you get more capacity, right? But you got to do the same weightlifting with doing mental work and doing emotional work and doing like whatever spiritual means for a person. But like, that's why I love reading things like, man, I'll read things like the Tao Te Ching and and things like When Things Fall Apart, or the Bhagavad Gita, or for lessons, from these, I would say, or Marcus Aurelius loves Stoicism, right? Because they teach you to see the world a different way. So it's like nothing changes, just the way you see the world changes, right?
Exactly.
And because of that, everything changes.
Right.
And then the stuff that we're talking about now is like, well, how do you handle these things? Well, if you just looked at it from a different perspective, you actually might see opportunity where you now see a problem, right? Like, and that's why it's so important to, when we talk about growth, it's really easy for you to be stuck in one way. Like, I look at the older me, like, I said the younger me, but years ago, decades ago, where it's just like physically, like, I'm just, training at Olympic levels and a savage and eating barbells and like whatever the hell you're like, hey, Luca, listen, man, if you eat that shoe, you'll run faster.
Yep.
I'm putting that shit in the blender.
Exactly.
But it was a bunch of areas that I was now working on, like whether it was emotionally or whether it was, spiritually, whatever it may be, and that, like, as things grew, hurt me, right? And so I had to learn, like, man, like, I got to be a more developed human being, because the thing is, as you take more responsibility and you become, you put yourself in a leadership position, now you're gonna have to deal with stuff and have the hard conversations and things that we talked about. Right? Like,
and I feel like the and this is a whole nother thing, we'll probably get on it, like, we could do a whole podcast on this, but like, you hear a lot of talk about participation trophies and these different things, like kids are coming up to where, like, they're kind of shielded from feeling bad, and I think that if you're always shielded from feeling bad or always made to feel good about yourself no matter what, you're setting yourself up for not knowing how to handle life when you don't feel good.
I agree.
Like, I wrote a quote earlier, I was thinking about that, now I'm pulling out my phone.
Pull it up, baby.
I like writing quotes. I haven't
I do too.
I haven't released many of these, but
I text them to myself.
I have like thousands of these.
Dude, you better, this is me gonna challenge you to start doing more of that.
So there's two of them I wrote this morning that came to me.
Okay.
I said, if you're taught to always feel good about yourself, you won't know how to function when you don't.
Oh, that's great.
Right? And then the other one that came to me before that, I said the first step on the path to unattainable perfection is to realize you're imperfect. Right? To not, like, don't put yourself on a pedestal.
It's funny that you say that, because yesterday I put a post up on IG and I said, I'm the second best. The first best is me a month from now.
Yeah.
And being able to, I've actually stopped even saying, like, I used to be like, I want Victor Ryan to be the best in the world. I've just stopped, like, call myself to saying it, because I just want us to be better. It's
Yeah.
an infinite game.
Yeah,
It's an outlet.
best is a matter of perspective.
Completely.
And the other thing to realize is that whether they exist at this moment or not, there's always going to be something or someone better.
I agree. And like,
You
so,
know,
so the only
whether
thing you
you're
can chase.
whether you're an athlete, whether you like, the only thing you can chase is bettering yourself.
Correct.
Like, consistently trying to better yourself.
As Matt, like the one, I love that speech from Matthew McConaughey, who said, you know, he's like my hero, you know, and he talks about like who he looks up to,
Yeah.
like, who he's chasing.
Yeah.
So you know, he's like, he looks up to his dad, and you know, God guides him, but he's like, I'm chasing me 10 years
Yeah.
from now. Me 10 years from now is the hero. When I get there, 10 years from, you know,
Yeah.
my hero will be me 10 years from another 10 years.
Yeah,
from
that's
now,
a
right?
powerful speech. I remember
And
that
yes,
one.
really, really powerful. And I, you know, and it's like if you really absorb that, you know, it's a cool meme or a cool quote, but like if you really believe that, you know, and if like, and I've come to a place where I'm just like, I'm really working hard to be better than I am right now in every area of life. Like, you know, I'll fail this week, and something will happen, and I won't handle something.
Yeah, we all
well,
will,
you
right?
know?
It's called being a human
being, exactly, right? And so it's like I said, it's not just being, it's like there's human being and there's being human. It's definitely
Yeah.
being human, right? Like, and all I can do is learn from that and go like, man, okay, the next time I want to handle it better, and have some conscious competence around that, and that's it. Like, and if I do that and I go like, how do I make myself better so I can make my team better and everybody around me better? That's the chase. That's
Yeah.
it. You know, as soon as you start doing like well, man, like there's a thing to be inspired, right? I might go like, man, I'm inspired by James and how he operates here. I'm gonna be inspired by you, but not be comparing myself to you. You know,
Yeah.
it's a big difference between it.
And
It's subtle.
being inspired is worthless if you're not figuring out how to use that to do something beneficial too.
Yeah, yeah. Because then
It's
you're
like-
just, it's like, I mean, I see a lot. You
Like,
see a
it
lot
feels
of that.
good. It's a
Yeah,
dopamine
exactly.
spike, right? It's like,
Yep.
that was a cool
And I think
speech or whatever. But like, are you actually retaining that and applying it?
and because then what happens is the first thing that you talked about, which is like, you know, I'm inspired, I feel really good, and then you go do stuff and you're like, oh, I suck.
Yeah. What happens?
Oh, this is hard.
What happens when the inspiration isn't there?
Exactly.
Like, how do you handle things then?
Because you got to do it. Like,
that shows a lot about somebody's true character.
Mhm.
Like, when the inspiration isn't there and they still do the work and they still move forward, that shows me a lot more than just the fact that you can get inspired. Like, anybody can get inspired, but inspiration is like momentary.
Exactly. And that's the thing about inspiration, motivation.
Or motivation, yeah.
Is that if you know, the best motivation happens after you do the work. You know,
Mhm.
not be like, I'm waiting to get motivated. Well, that's gonna be a fucking long wait.
Yeah.
You know, like, or it will be very put it this way, you're betting on these spurs of motivation versus and James Clear, my favorite habits book is Atomic Habits by James Clear by far. You know, and it's a super simple read, very, very well thought out. But you know, as he talks about, this is actually a misconception, but I wanted to bring it up, right? That successful people are way more motivated than unsuccessful people, and it's not necessarily true. You know, what successful people do is they eliminate distractions very well, so that because the more distracted you are, the harder it is to do the work that
Right.
you're supposed to do, right? So one thing about habits is that the easier you make a good habit to do, more likely you're going to do it. The harder it is a bad habit to make a bad habit, to do a bad habit, the harder you're going to do it,
Yeah.
less likely. So if you're like, man, I really got to stop eating ice cream every day, right? It's like, well, take it out the fucking fridge, you know? Now you can still go get it, but it's going to take you 20 minutes to get to the store, buy it, take 20 minutes to get back. So you're going to spend an hour getting ice cream.
Yeah.
19 out of 20 times you're not going to get it, right? Like, you
Well,
want to play the guitar every day when you work here.
Yeah.
Put the guitar next to your chair. You're going to play it. You put it in the you know, 3 flights of stairs away in the cupboard. You're not going to play it.
It's all about making the choice to take action.
Decision.
It's a decision. You
Right.
have to take action.
I think throughout the day you get, you know, people get flustered, but I go like, you only have to think about the decision, like, right, like, I don't know, I'm going to drink this water, right? I just want to think about making the decision to do that right now.
Yeah.
And then wait till the next decision that I have to make.
Absolutely.
People get like flustered by being overwhelmed, but see, these are all the things that we kind of talk about. Is like throughout your day, you have to create structure. Craig Ballantyne is a great friend of mine, and he's people call him the most disciplined man in the world because he's so structured. But he says structure equals freedom, and I agree with that, right? Like, so if every day I read, most of the days I read 30 to 60 minutes. Like on the weekends, Friday and Sunday, sometimes 3-4 hours. Sometimes, if I travel, I read a lot. So I still read about 2 books a week there. But I structure it.
Yeah, you have to.
It's not like, well, I'll do it if the day, if I'm not tired at the end of the day. No, like it's what I do. Training. Feel like it, don't feel like it. It's on the schedule. Hey, like sending an appreciation text to friends or hey, on the schedule. Right? Like, I'm not going to wait for motivation for that. Like, if it's important, I'm going to do it. I'm going to structure it in my day.
Yeah. You're never going to have time that you don't make.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Especially when you're busy.
Exactly. That's a great quote, too.
It's a priority.
Absolutely.
It's prioritization and like structuring and scheduling. Like, that's something that I'm working on is that structure. Is you get in this thing like, man, I just don't have enough time. Yeah. But then you look like, especially if you turn on the little analytics thing for your social media usage on your phone, and then you go,
crushing you.
Man, I spent over an hour on Instagram today. That was an hour I could have been doing this or that. Like, granted, for what we do, like a lot of times we're on social media. It's posting stuff for the business or whatever,
yeah.
But still, there's a lot of time scrolling that feed.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
say if only say if 30 minutes of that is work, and then 30 minutes you're just literally sitting there scrolling the feed, getting those little dopamine spikes, hitting giving them the little hearts on there, putting a comment. Like, you can do a lot in 30 minutes.
A lot. I mean, that's still one of my issues too, because the work is on social media. A bunch of it is, but I mean, I can be honest here and say half of the time I spend on there is just bullshit. I mean,
right.
It's just getting caught into it, right? But like, if I think that your life changes the moment that you go, somebody, like, if we were here and you said, hey, I want to do more of this and less of this, and I want to get fitter, and I looked at your schedule. So the two things, your calendar and your wallet, right? Your calendar and your wallet. And I say that because, like, where does your time go and where does your money go? Like,
right.
That's gonna tell me in the next year where you're gonna be. Like, man, I really want to get in shape, and then I look at the schedule and there's no gym or no workout time or no activities. Hey, I wanna eat better so I can lose weight. Okay, cool. There's no preparation in your week. There's no scheduled time to prepare for how you're gonna eat that week. That's gonna be funky, right? Like, hey, I want to get better at like promoting my business. Cool. Show me your block of time where you're marketing your business. Like, you block it out. I want to improve my relationships. Okay, cool. Where's date night? Where's family dinner? Where's date night with the kids? Like, if the schedule's not showing it, it's not gonna change.
Yeah. If it's not reflected there, it's
there's
not.
no way. And same thing with money. I mean, money is like this hard thing to talk about for most people. But I go like, listen, if you look at where my money goes, I can tell you right off the bat, it goes number one into either learning or time with people I care about. Like, now,
right.
and the thing is, in learning, I combine that with my team business, like investment in learning. For me, my team it's probably number one, and like the people, like experiences with the people I love. That and there's a lot of shit I can fix to make better, trust. But I can tell you right off the bat, like if you hit up your accountant and you go like, hey, like break it down to me. She'll say, well, look, there's a little too much Nike shit here, and I'll agree with that. There's a little too much Nike shopping, and so hopefully Nike listens to this and understands that I'll get more customers.
One of these days.
But it is like it's hard to look at. It's hard to look at the stuff that is not working in your life, right? Like,
absolutely.
It's easy to back to that thing. It's easy to avoid right now.
Yeah, and what they call it, looking in the accountability mirror.
Yeah, the accountability mirror. That would be the dope. We need to make that as how like there's the mirror now.
Yeah.
Where the mirror pop, like you're doing a workout,
mirror,
the fitness mirror.
Yeah.
We need to do accountability mirror. So you get in front of it, and the mirror is like, Where the fuck's your smoothie?
Exactly.
You know, like, hey, listen, did you text your wife today? No. Fucking go do that. You know, like,
and don't be giving away $1 million ideas on here.
That's all right. Hey, listen, somebody's got to take action. I'm texting my guy right now. Coding this thing up. But yeah, I mean that's actually a great point. Man, we could talk for forever.
I know.
For
already an hour and a half in, man.
But we got to finish on some, like, okay. Now this may go. I think this could be for all kind of service-based businesses. But for you, if you're talking to another up and coming, so somebody that's been in jiu-jitsu, basically somebody that wants to build what you've built, like, so a successful business, and like I said, it may be martial arts, and that's fulfilling but also profitable, and, like, it's doing great things in the world, but it's not falling apart, and it's healthy.
Right.
Like, what would be? I'm not even gonna give you a number. Just what comes to mind, like, because I'll probably add some based on knowing you, the things that I think that you do exceptionally well, that I know have helped you do this. But I want to hear from you, like, if you're kind of giving this wisdom and advice to somebody, like, what would be the things that you'd share?
Well, I've helped quite a few of my students now with getting started with their academies, and one of the big ones that I say is like, if you know years out that's something that you have, that goal that you want to do, like, start saving money, like, right away. If you can help not having a loan, or put a bunch of money on credit cards like I had to do, to get your business started, that's incredibly beneficial. And not only that, but estimate what the rent's going to be and all these different expenses you're going to inevitably have when you open your school, and try to have like 6 months of that saved up, or a year of that saved up before you even start the business.
That's a great point.
I mean, that way, say you get in and you don't build up your student base quick, you're not going to be scrambling. It's like you'll have the rent covered for a year.
It gives you
rent and utilities, you got that cushion there to where it's like, okay, we got time to grow.
Yeah.
We don't have to be in a rush. We don't have to do anything crazy because we're having the stress of that financial issue.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is people get impatient. And it's like, oh, but there's a space right here, and if I get a small business loan, I can open it up right now, and
there'll never be a space again.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, if it's important to you, like, you're going to be patient enough to wait and do it the right way. Mm-hmm. I always say you can do it the right way, or you can do it the other way. It's like, you can jump right in. Yeah, that's great. Like, there's so much more to this than having a space, having mats, and all of that. There's a lot more that goes into it, but I always say make it a priority. Like, if it's something you actually want to do, you'll take the time to save up, and you'll take the time necessary to do it the right way. So for me, that's a big one. And then also, be honest with yourself and realize that it's going to be like however much work you think it's going to be, realize it's going to be like 10 times. I say 10 times.
No, I you know what? I actually do think it because when you say 10 times, it is. And I say, like, as soon as you go from coach, and in my profession, or so my vocation is like, you go from coach to business owner, right? You're doing 100 more things.
Yes.
So it is 10x, because before that you didn't do all of these things that now you have to do. And maybe it won't be 10x the time, because then that's not possible. But man, you're doubling your time, and until you, like, learn a lot of stuff, and it is 10x. I mean, it really is. Like,
and you have to be ready and willing to be 100% involved 24/7. So, like, I say these things to them because I want them to make sure that it's the right choice for them.
Correct.
And they're not just going to be another Joe Blow who gets the bright idea to open up a school, and then you see it shut down. Like, the turnover of martial arts schools is crazy. Like, there was a statistic a while back. It was like literally like over 75% of martial arts schools that would open would shut down in less than a year.
That's almost as bad as, I mean, that's actually worse than fitness.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would put that into the health and wellness space for sure.
And
that's close to restaurants.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is now, but I mean, like, back then it was like something like only like 5% or less made it outside the first 3 years. It was like crazy statistics.
Yeah.
Like, most people get in over their head because they don't take that time in the initial preparation, and like we were talking about earlier, doing the research, figuring things out, and not letting your motivation or your excitedness to jump into this venture, they say the whole getting the cart ahead of the horse thing, like, you have to be prepared, and you have to know what you're getting into, like, and you have to love it to the point where like it's your life, like, to do it right. It can't just be like, oh, this is my fun hobby, and so I'm gonna turn it into a job. Like, you gotta love it no matter what. You gotta be in 150%. Because it's something that truly, it's the greatest thing in the world if that's it for you. Like, for me, this is it. Like, I love what I do. Like, there's elements of it that are a job, but it doesn't feel like any job I've had in my life. Like, I'm content and happy every day, even when it's like really hard work and I'm dragging whatever. Like, it's the worst day doing this is better than the best day at any other job that I had, right? So if you can truly say that whatever venture it is that you're getting into is going to be that for you, then you should move forward with it. If you can't honestly say that, then it might not be the right thing. Like, if you're just excited and you're wanting to open up a place and dabble, like, this isn't something to dabble with, because you have to realize you have the ability to have such a great impact on people's lives, like a positive impact, through operating this type of business. And like you said, being in the industry of service, like, service to others is big for me. I believe that is like why I am here. It's to help others. And thankfully I've been given this, or I've worked towards, or been given this platform through which I can do that. And I think that's important, is to realize it's not just about you and your success, it's about how you utilize this to help other people and to bring positive influence and positive impact to their lives, and show them how they can take it through the training and through the principles they learn, and use that to help other people. And then it's just a continuous cycle, and it's never ending. Long after James and Luca are gone from this earth, our legacy of positively impacting others is going to live on through the people that we've helped on our journey.
And that, because I think that's probably finishing on a great point right there.
I did that on purpose.
I know,
so
I know.
Gotta end it on a strong note.
Man, you are swift, my friend. But I do think about, like, what is legacy, and it's easy to be like, it's the book I wrote, it's the business I wrote behind. But it really is every single person. Like, the thing that they took from you, that's the legacy. And
at your funeral, nobody's going to be like, remember that book Luca wrote? That was me, like, man, Luca helped so many people. Remember all the fun charity stuff we used to do, the boot camps, or when you and I used to compete and do the toys for the kids, and send each other pictures of the full shopping carts, trying to one up each other, like all of that kind of stuff. Like, that's the stuff we're going to be remembered for, and helping people. Like, that lives on forever. And that lives on through every generation after that, and the person passes it on. That's never going to end. I mean, like, the whole, like, in jiu-jitsu, like, people put such a emphasis on what titles they've won and this and that. Like, man, I can't tell you how many world champions I know that have the medals, like, collecting dust in some drawer in their house. They never take it out and look at it. It's not up being displayed anywhere. Like, they say you're only as great as your most recent achievement. Like, that's kind of how it is. Like, nobody's going to remember what you won or what you did. Like, they're going to remember those positive interactions they had with you. They're going to remember how you helped people, and that's what it's all about. Like, what do they say? Like, people on their deathbed, it's like they don't wish that they had more stuff. They wish they'd spent more time with their loved ones and the people around them, and the material things is nothing. Like, oh, I really man, I'm gonna miss my $1 million. It's like,
you can't buy back time, man.
No,
Like, and
so it's not.
And just doing, like, first of all, spend more time with loved ones. Actually, a lot of people, like, one said wish they had worked less, but really it came down to also that wish that they did more of the stuff that they wanted to do and did the work that they wanted to do.
Right.
You know? And I feel grateful for what we do is that, like, man, every day is like, all right, this is work, but is it? It's kind of like, it's way more meaningful. It's not like true work, it's almost like a servant leadership, I believe,
The business side can be work.
Yeah.
But what we do, like, as far as instructing and coaching and all of this, like, it's just giving back.
Yeah.
Giving back to the community and helping others and, trying to help people learn through the lessons that we've learned and impart that, because I'm a big believer in, like I'll give you advice and tell you something even if I know it's going to go in one ear and out the other, because it's not so much, the advice is for you, but that whole interaction is also for me to know that I imparted that to you, and I did my best to try to give you something of value that you can take and benefit from, or you can choose to just let it go in one ear and out the other, which people do a lot of times, but at least I know that I've imparted it.
Yeah.
And I've tried to share that lesson and tried to help somebody benefit through the experiences I've accumulated over the years.
Do not be a man of success, be a man of value, Albert Einstein.
Excellent.
And with that said, what a fantastic podcast. And I hope that the stuff that we went over, man, that something poked you a little bit and hit you a little bit and made you do something,
Yeah, I always say, I'll put it into the example of a jiu-jitsu seminar. Like, when you go to a jiu-jitsu seminar, somebody's going to show you a lot of different cool stuff, and you're not going to remember all of it a month later because you see so many things. But if you took one little thing away that helped you, man, that's what we do this for.
Absolutely. So go and do it. Like I said, like with the Bigger Life podcast, every time I talk about when you learn something, just one thing, just go do it because it's going to move your life forward. And as always, you guys know, like, hey, like this, share this, leave a review on iTunes, an honest review. I always love that. Podcast is growing, but like I said, when you share it, other people get to, hear this and learn from myself and amazing guests that I have on here. So with that said, show some love. I appreciate you guys. You could be anywhere else, but you're here listening to this, which I couldn't love and appreciate you more for that. And I will see you. Well, actually, now you're hearing me on the next episode of the Bigger Life podcast. Coach Luca is out. Peace.
Guys, thank you so much. Thank you to Luca for having me on. I just wanted to say that if you enjoy what I'm about, I'm always here for you. You can follow me on social media at James300. That's James300 Foster on all the platforms. Message me anytime. I love helping people, so I'm always here for you. And again, thank you so much, Luca. I had a great time.
My pleasure, brother.
I think that was like fucking one of the best ever, dude.
Dude, that was a great.
That was awesome. Boom. You got your laptop? I'll throw that card. You got an SD card reader on there?
I got that attachment.
Okay.
So this should have it, right? I don't know if you're
Yeah, I'm a techie guy. I'm a tech guru.
Got it?
No. This doesn't have a SD.
Shit, hold on.
That's okay. Maybe it has it on the.
Nah, it doesn't. Because
Nothing?
because the new Macs.
Friggin' Macs, dude.
This is the problem with the new Macs is that, like, they have. That means that there's another attachment. That
Yeah, there'll be another one that has it. But what I'll do is I'll just
Dropbox it.
I'll just drop. I'll do like Dropbox or OneDrive or whatever.
Yeah.